What is up, my beautiful people? Hope you're having a tremendous day. Exile451 here with yet another daily dose of Reddit Happy. Happy Halloween, everyone. Hope you've got something awesome and fun planned for the evening. Let's start the day off right with some more stories out of that r/AskReddit thread that I know are gonna make you laugh. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. I was a talking head on a table. A group of 5 people led by a girl comes into my room, and when they get close to me, I say, "Hello," fairly nonchalantly. The girl in front screams and falls backwards with a domino effect, taking everyone else in her group with her. And then some of the comments here. Were you able to control yourself? I would have laughed my butt off. No, I became a laughing head on a table. I volunteered at one for a few years in high school. The best thing that happened was that I saw a girl from grade school go through the room. She obviously couldn't recognize me, so as she passed, I whispered her name. She got a huge fright, and the next day, she asked on Facebook who was working in the haunted house. I never told her who it was. Sorry, Jenna. And then someone commented here. Did this once at a bar on Halloween. I had a very creepy costume that was making some people uncomfortable. One girl wouldn't even look at me. I happened to be passing by when she was being introduced to someone and overheard her name, made a note of it, and an hour or so later, I noticed she was trying to work up the courage to look at my costume. I looked directly at her and whispered her name slowly. She freaked out. Even pulling off the mask didn't help because I was still face painted and we didn't know each other. Her friends took her outside and eventually they let her come back in so I could apologize. We're still casual friends, and when I see her at the bar, I always make a point to walk up behind her and whisper her name. I still get a reaction. This just needs the meme of, do you want to get maced? Because that's how you get maced. I got to work at the special VIP attraction last year at my local place. It's basically a really dark trail in the woods, but the actors are allowed to touch guests. Grabbing and pulling people off into the woods and whatnot, hiding kind of sucks, so I had to lay in the mud and grab at people's ankles and then chase after them. But the funniest thing in the world is the lanterns. We give them little electronic hand lanterns as their only light source, and 2 guys have remotes that can turn them on and off. Every time, without fail, the guy's girlfriend is yelling at him to stop turning the lantern off. It's even better if you have a really dark costume because then you can walk up behind them, lay a hand on their shoulder and say, "Yeah, jerk, don't turn the lantern off." Then a comment here. Not gonna lie, if I had those remotes, I would let them walk down a corridor or something, then turn them off and turn them back on when I'm right in front of them. Okay, that's how you get maced. Then another comment here. Had a similar experience as a customer. We were in one of those really dark mazes where you can't really see in front of your face. And one of my comrades kept bumping into a mutual friend. My friend got annoyed and said, "Jim, stop touching me." And a sinister voice right in his ear. "Yeah, Jim, stop touching him." It wasn't Jim touching him after all. I obviously couldn't see his face, but his girlish screech will live in my fondest memories forever. Not exactly an actor, but I was the guy who opened the door when a group went from one room to another. I wore this black cloak that had a hood that almost entirely covered my face, but was thin enough that I could see through it. These 2 kids, 13 to 15 years old-ish, came around the corner as I was moving my head back and forth looking at people, and one of them said, "Dude, these animatronics suck." I took a single step forward and he screamed in a really high pitch and jumped so far back he smashed into the wall. His friend stopped moving for a solid minute to laugh at him. Also, the amount of appreciative looks I got from guys whose girlfriends got scared and clung to their arms was far higher than I expected. Except for the one guy who was making comments about how this place wasn't that scary, and he would protect her, only to scream like a girl as soon as he turned the corner. His look wasn't so appreciative. Well, let's see. He just emasculated himself in front of his girlfriend. I can only imagine why he wouldn't appreciate being there. Follow-up comment to that. That reminds me of when I was about 14 or so and went to a haunted house with my neighbor and his niece who was in from out of town. I didn't really know her that well, but she was pretty cute and was fairly well endowed. I was an awkward, pimple-faced nerd who was obviously not worthy of any attention from her. Anytime she got scared, which was often, she would hold on to me and bless me with a sweet caress. I don't know if word got around amongst the workers that scaring this girl might cause this dork she's with to have to change his pants, but when we got to the chainsaw guy at the end, he pulled out all the stops and had her climbing all over me until she finally made a break for it and sprinted for the exit, leaving me alone with Leatherface. He turned his chainsaw off, patted me on the back, and said, "You're welcome." I volunteered once at a haunted house. I was the chainsaw murderer or something like that, and I had a real electric chainsaw with a rubber/fake chain. I jumped up at one girl who was by herself, but I got no response, so I thought, dang, I didn't get her. I look away for a few seconds to see if someone else was coming, and she was on the floor fainting and pooped herself. What is the protocol for that? I mean, do you just stop the whole thing? Is it like... As someone with an experience-based PhD in haunted housing who has visited hundreds of these over the years, I can honestly say that I've seen lots of funny/crazy crap. However, the thing that comes to mind is when I was at Universal Studios in Orlando during Halloween Horror Nights. If you're a haunted house enthusiast like I am, the production, acting, and scares are all top-notch. One of the rooms was filled with sheets, with a strobe light blinking quickly in the background. Actors were dressed in blood-ridden sheets and meandering around, coming as close as possible to bumping into people, but coming just shy of it. The group in front of us, about 5 feet away, was comprised of 4 teenagers. 2 girls and 2 boys. Most groups of teenagers followed a pretty similar stereotype at these houses, and this one was no different. The girls were quick to scream and then laugh, while the boys acted as though they were too cool to be bothered by some cheap scares. So, as we're trekking through this matrix of sheets, fog, and strobe lights, one of the boys, who had spent the majority of the first section of the house talking about how stupid it was, suddenly got surrounded by 3 of Freddy's victims as he was pushing his way through the sheets. The kid let out a blood-curdling scream and then pushed the actor in front of him to the ground and bolted. Problem is, it was dark as heck, and we were right near the exit, but with all the fog and the way that the lights were, you really couldn't tell where the end was. He bolted forward, tripped over the actor he just pushed to the ground, and smacked his face into the wall, knocking him right on his butt. His buddy ran over and tried to get him up, which caused the teenage Ray Charles to jump in the air and start flailing his arms wildly. It seemed like one of those arms/hands connected with his buddy because he fell to the ground. The girls started crying, security ran out to get them and lead them to the exits, and this guy starts shoving them out of the way. They finally get them out of the house and we all start moving again. Talk about ruining the immersion. As we get outside, I can hear a ruckus on the other side of the partition. It sounded like the security was trying to talk them down when we hear the evening's hero scream, "I freaking peed myself! Screw you! My dad is a lawyer!" Etc., etc. We laughed all the way to the next exhibit. I don't understand this. Why on earth would you announce to the world that you peed your pants? I mean, like, I'd be embarrassed. I wasn't an actor myself, but I was in a haunted house with a group of people. There was this huge muscular dude that was there with his girlfriend. For the entire time, the girl was somewhat clinging to the muscular guy, who hadn't really reacted to anything himself. Eventually, we get to the end. But it turns out it's not actually the end, because an actor in a monster costume suddenly jumps out of nowhere. The muscular guy shrieks and pushes his girlfriend right in front of him towards the monster. He very quickly realized that the danger was fake and tried to compose himself, but it was too late. Everyone had seen him, and everyone, including the monster actor and girlfriend, began snickering uncontrollably at his cowardliness. I worked the last couple years volunteering at a haunted house. Last year, I was a nurse in charge of the insane asylum room. I wore scrubs and had my hair in pigtails, lots of white makeup with dark circles under my eyes, etc. I stood right where people walked in and I just stood still. No blinking, no head turning, I'd just follow them with my eyes. Many people thought I was one of the animatronics. While people were focused on me trying to figure out if I was real or not, another guy would jump out of the coffin in a straitjacket and scare the crap out of people. One night, he scared a girl so bad she fell in the coffin with him and landed very awkwardly next to him. He couldn't get her out because he was in a straitjacket, so I had to go help lift her out, but I was laughing so hard it took longer than it should have. One of the other nights, a group of guys came through and assumed I was an animatronic, and he grabbed my boob. I just asked him if he was into screwing dead people. He felt so bad when he figured out I was real. It scared the crap out of him, though. Yeah, I can imagine it would. I had been working as a volunteer at a Red Cross haunted forest thing. I was in the section where we dressed up like zombies and lurched out of the forest of people. We did this for 2 weeks, but on Halloween night, I went to a party before we opened the haunted forest. Unfortunately, I had left my zombie costume at home and I was dressed up as Ratchet from Ratchet and Clark. Well, we decided to roll with it anyway, and we got a ton of laughs. Zombie Ratchet was a huge hit. A woman who I assume was the mother of this kid pushed her in front and sprinted while screaming, "Survival of the fittest!" That's real Mother of the Year material. I was a scare actor for a local maze back in high school. People would go in groups, and I was right near the beginning. I was dressed in all black and had long fingers with claws and a burlap sack mask over my head. Right before me, however, were a group of killer clowns. My job was to crawl out of a ditch onto the path right after the clown scene. This one girl comes in with her group of friends and is immediately freaking out at the clowns, refused to go through. After much coaxing, she finally decided to do the rest of the maze. Well, during her freaking out, I had crawled out from my ditch and ended up in the middle of the path right in front of her. After they finally convince her to go through, she looks up and makes eye contact with me. With my long claw hand, I slowly make the "come here" motion. She immediately screams, "Oh, heck no," and storms out. Didn't see her again for the rest of the night. I was an actor at the Haunted Hotel, located in the basement of this huge building in downtown San Diego. And one season, we had half a car attached to a track that can be pushed quickly forward, complete with a real working horn and headlights. So when people walk through the pitch darkness, a staff member would shove the car into motion, blare the horn and the headlights simultaneously, blinding the guests and making them crap themselves. I have never laughed this hard in my entire life at anything. People's reactions were absolutely horrified on a debilitating level. Their faces were indescribable. I'm talking about preparing for death faces. People would fall over backwards, men would push their dates in front of them. I couldn't breathe and my abs constantly hurt from barreling over laughing every night. Most incredible job I've ever had. I have to say, I'm kind of jealous of that. That was r/AskReddit, and if you want more funny or uplifting AskReddit content, then feel free to check out the playlist link in the description below. Now you guys go out there, have a happy, safe, and fun Halloween. Feel free to go overboard with the candy and get sick if you want. Either way, I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, I'm Exile451. Stay beautiful, people.